If you guys want to win your fantasy hockey leagues this year, I would highly recommend drafting multiple players from this video. These are players that we believe that will hit over 70 points for the first time in their career, making them an elite upside pick for you guys into the future. Some of them even could hit into the 80-point range going forward into this fantasy hockey season. So a really important video for you guys to go over here. Here are 7 elite upside players that you absolutely need to draft for this year's fantasy hockey season. Starting us off as the only goalie on our list in Dustin Wolf. We're going to go goal over goaltenders, then defensemen, and then finish off with forwards. But with Wolf, like 9-10 could honestly be the floor for him. Wolf has been elite at every single level that he's played. In the AHL, he had phenomenal numbers, 924, 932, and 922, and then emerges into the NHL with a rookie season of a 910 save percentage. He almost single-handedly carried the Calgary Flames into the playoffs as a rookie goaltender. Guys, 9-10 could be the floor here. I think 60 starts is also possible from Wolf, just given the fact that they're going to need this guy to play at least at the level that he was last season in order for them to have a shot at the playoffs again this year. I have my reservations about the team, but when you look at Wolf and the talent and the history and just how good he's been, he is as good as the hype was around him with 53 starts and a 9-10 save percentage. Like I said, I think 60 starts is possible for him this year. Goalies are very hard to predict, but it is quite possible that this guy just has top 5 goalie upside on the volume alone. And even if Calgary does sell off pieces, there has been historically goaltenders that have played at an elite level on really bad teams. So I wouldn't worry too much, even though he may suffer in the wins category. The counting stats should still be elite for Wolf going into next season, and this could just be the beginning for him. Lane Hutson is our first defender that has a ton of elite upside going into next year. We know he had a fantastic season last year, winning the Calder Trophy and getting over that 60-point threshold, but what exactly is the upside here? Could he be Quinn Hughes 2.0? Could he be Makar 2.0? Is he really going to hit that level? I think he's more skewed towards Quinn Hughes in terms of his counting stats. Just if you look at the peripheral numbers, it took Quinn Hughes a couple of years to get up to a higher shot volume, and I think Lane Hutson does have that in him, but he doesn't quite have the goal upside that say Makar would. But he had 27 points in his last 30 games and averaged over 23 minutes time on ice, very close to 24 minutes. The team around him got better. He's pretty much locked at power play 1 for the next decade or however long he remains in Montreal. So if you think about it, the role is solidified, the talent is there, and the team are all kind of up on the uprise with the addition of guys like Ivan Demidov and the growth of Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki. And then you've got, Patrick Laine, who's always a goal scoring threat there. And they're still looking at grabbing a second line center. So everything is pretty much in place for Hutson to have a monster season next year. At least the block total gives him some floor. Like, I know he's not great in the shot department or the hits department, but the blocks do give me a little bit of hope. If you do count blocks in your leagues, this is another added bonus for Hutson. But the point upside, guys, is undeniable. I think he could have 75 points next year. I think there is just so much upside here. He has the chance to go nuclear into that Quinn Hughes level. So I'm looking to draft Hutson as much as possible. Up next, we have Jake Sanderson at ADP 63. I was over the moon with the breakout that he had last year. I thought he would live in the 40 to 50 point range as a defenseman. And I looked at the numbers, and it seems he actually has another level to him where I think he could potentially dip into the 70-point range. If you look at his last 30 games, he had 28 points over that span with 86 shots. So that would be pace. If you take that last 30, that's pacing for over 240 shots out of Jake Sanderson. So there is still another level to his game, especially from a fantasy perspective. In that combination of shots, power play points, and blocks, I think there's a ton of upside for Jake Sanderson. We know Brady had a down year last year. We know they added Dylan Cousins late into the year, and that probably contributed to the point total that you're seeing out of Sanderson in that last 30 games, as well as Tim Stützle could still pop. He's still young enough to do that. So I think all in all, there is still some upside with Jake Sanderson compounding onto the breakout that we saw out of him last year. He's still only 22 and is quickly emerging as one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League. I legitimately think that there is 70-point upside for him going into next year if everything goes right, and an elite power play point total with over 30 points, just given the surrounding cast. So please look to grab Jake Sanderson in your drafts this season. I am all in on Thomas Harley this year. Everything is pointing in the right direction for him. There is just so much to love about all of the underlying numbers that we saw from him last season. At ADP 68, it feels like a crime that you're going to be able to get this guy. Harley's had back-to-back seasons with over 15 goals and over 47 points. So even just knowing that, we know he's safe for around over 50 points next season with some growth that you're factoring into that and around 15 goals. But as you look closer and closer to the numbers that finished off last season, it becomes scary how good of an opportunity Thomas Harley has for next year. He had 27 points in his last 30 games. They were playing this guy close to 26 minutes a night in the last 48 games of their season. 14 points in those 18 playoff games. Like, just everything is pointing to the fact that Harley has another level given the opportunity of being that power play one defenseman. And who is the power play one defenseman for the Dallas Stars in the last 14 games when their season was on the line, when they're trying to win every single game of the playoffs? It was Thomas Harley. We're seeing him on that top power play unit in training camp. Now, Dallas does have a new coach, but I think it's undeniable at this point that Thomas Harley is the better, more offensive oriented defenseman. Look what happened to Evan Bouchard when he broke out in playoffs that one year. Harley is very, very close behind. I think he's got 70-point upside next year with 20 goals as a defenseman and should have an elite power play point total on top of that with over 30 power play points if he sticks as the number one guy for the entire season, which up until this point, I believe is the case and will be the case going into next season. I am very bullish on Thomas Harley this year. Please go and draft this guy where you can. Adam Fantilli is another guy that I'm incredibly high on as we start to go over forwards that have elite upside for next season. You're still getting him at an insane discount this year, guys, at ADP 166. This will be the last time that you'll be able to get Adam Fantilli out of the first 4 rounds. This is the year. This is the year where he finally pops off. He had 24 points in his last 30 games played, all at 5-on-5, not a single power play point in that span. He's going to be on power play 1 for the entire duration of the season. It was baffling to me that they kept this guy off of power play 1 at points last year. I could not believe that they just decided to not have this guy on their top unit. If he skates with Ken Johnson and Kirill Marchenko for the majority of the time at 5-on-5, he could go nuclear just given his peripheral goal upside. Even just last season with his initial breakout, Fantilli was a rare player in fantasy hockey of having the combination of over 30 goals and over 100 hits. One of only 9 players to do that last season. Since January 1st of last year, he had 24 goals in that span of 44 games and 39 points. We'll see if the playmaking is there, but there's just so much to love with Adam Fantilli. I think he's got 35 goal upside with around 70 points and over 110 hits. If that shot volume comes up to around 240, 250 shots, that is an elite fantasy player and an elite fantasy asset for next season, guys. Please draft Adam Fantilli this year. You're getting him at such a crazy discount. It could be just an absolute slam dunk home run league winner given the shot, hit, and goal upside. And this is just the floor, guys. He could legitimately go nuclear if that top power play ends up clicking and his role is solidified as the number 1 center in Columbus, which I do believe will be. Up until this season, this will be the last year that you're going to get Fantilli at a discount. Seth Jarvis could be the most flexible player in all of fantasy hockey. He had 29 points in his last 30 games. He's going to be line one and power play one all season. Rod Brind'Amour loves this guy. He's already quickly one of the best defensive forwards in the National Hockey League. And now they've added Nikolai Ehlers to that top line and top power play unit. Seth Jarvis is in for a phenomenal opportunity next year with a ton of upside. Even just looking at the past couple of seasons, he's been a lock for 30 goals and over 90 hits, and he's triple eligible this year, guys. You can get him center, left wing, right wing, which is unheard of for a guy that could potentially dip into that 80-point range. Even without talking about the addition of Nikolai Ehlers on that top line, Jarvis was around a point per game since Christmas of last year. He's going to play a ton. He's going to play on the top unit. He's going to play on power play one, and he's only 23, which means there's still some opportunity for him to grow on top of all this. I think Jarvis has 35 goal and 80-point upside with 100 hits mixed into that, guys. I am so excited to see what Jarvis does, especially with Ehlers on that top unit. I think he's going to be an absolute steal in drafts this year, just given the flexibility and his ADP. And just like, again, very similar to a guy like Adam Fantilli, where you're getting a 30-goal scorer with potentially 100 plus hits next year. I am very excited to see what Seth Jarvis does. Finishing off our video is my favorite elite upside player, Dylan Guenther of the Utah Mammoth. I almost said Utah Hockey Club there. That's going to take some getting used to. But at ADP 102, very similar to Adam Fantilli, this will be the last year that you're able to get Dylan Guenther at a discount. He had 26 points in his last 30 games with 106 shots and 213 shot attempts. He was fourth in the National Hockey League in the entire year in shot attempts per 60, more than David Pastrnak, more than Austin Matthews, more than Jack Hughes, and more than Tage Thompson. All four guys with elite shot volume. He played less than 17 minutes time on ice last year, and I think that's going to drastically change going into this season. He is also surrounded by elite playmakers. You've got Logan Cooley, you've got Clayton Keller, even Nick Schmaltz is pretty much a lock for that 60-point mark and is a great playmaker in his own right. He was also around a hit per game with 18 blocks in those last 30 games that I mentioned. So there is some additional peripheral upside on top of the fact that this guy could have one of the best shot volumes in the entire league. We're talking like a Matt Boldy level growth here. Everything points to him having a fantastic year. I think he has 40 goals in him as early as this year with 75-point upside and 290 plus shots, guys. He is going to be a league winner. I am bullish on it. Please draft Dylan Guenther this year. That is going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Now, there's going to be another breakout video coming as well, as I had mentioned in the initial breakout video. You've got breakouts, elite upside, and then the third video coming hopefully next week will be players that could go absolutely nuclear. So stay tuned for that video. That one will be a fun one as well. As always, let me know in the comments down below who your favorite elite upside player is. Thank you again so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button and leave a like if you enjoyed the content. I will see you in the next video.